Welcome to Toffee TV today. I am joined by Sky News editor. Listen, he needs no introduction. It's Alan Myers. Alan, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yes, I'm all right. I'm all right, mate. Holding up. I mean, Al, just in your career, has this been the weirdest time for you trying to report on football when there's been no football?
I've had some weird times in my career, Baz, I can tell you. But yeah, this is up there, with in a strange way, for someone of my age, it's actually quite good. What I've found that people of my age during this it's been really good, because what you've had to do is go back to, proper journalism, if you like. Like most of the time now in football, everything's sort of put on a plate for us, to a certain point, press conferences and, going to see training and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of it, you're sort of doing what's available, if you know what I mean. But now, because you're having to use your contact lists and you're having to go out and find stories, from sometimes your front room, that's been difficult, you know what I mean? So, but I've loved it in a sense, because it's before we had Google and all the rest of it, you know what I mean? The internet, and we could find something at the touch of a button. It was a little bit like that, because in those days you had to find, you have to have contacts and you have to be able to find people to talk to you, and that's what we've had to do. But it's been tough, in fairness. It's been difficult, but in regards to everything else going on, it's not a problem really.
Yeah, it has been fascinating. If we move away from the obvious things, which has been, dominating the news, and we've had a horrific time of it really, with throughout the world and in the UK as well. But from a football perspective, it has been really interesting to see how everybody's trying to meander through, the fact that there isn't any football, and for such a long time there's been no start date. But we are moving towards a start date. Before I get onto the Premier League, I know that you've spoke to John Joe Kenny a couple of times, who's obviously out in the Bundesliga, and Bundesliga's started a couple of weeks ago now. I mean, what have you made of how they've responded to it and how they've gone back to work almost?
Well, I think what I've found, especially speaking to John, I've been speaking to a couple of other people at Bundesliga clubs, who, they're I think Germany's ahead of us by a few weeks, or possibly more, and they've, as you can imagine, there's been a very sort of structured comeback. They've been training for some time. Everything's been in the right place, and speaking to John Joe, he was saying that everything's in place to train properly and to be isolated where you need to be, distance, and as I say, I think they're a bit ahead of us now, and they can do contact. Obviously, they can now do contact sports, and so. For me, I can see how they do it, because there is a really it's a sterile place. I mean, I'm not sure, when I've seen people saying it's safer than going to the supermarket and all the rest of it. And whilst that might be the case, it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable when people are saying that, because, most people have to go to the supermarket, so, and I think what you said before, you're right. There are so many more important things to be talking about and doing at the moment. But the bottom line is you've got to talk about these things, because they are going to happen at some point, and you should be able to distinguish between one and the other, and nobody thinks that you don't understand what's going on in the world. Of course you do, but we can either sit there and just say nothing, or we can talk about what we love and what we miss, and and all the rest of it. But I think there's a structured way that's being worked out to do it. I've always been a believer that the league should finish, to be honest. I think, and I have to laugh at my social media, because any time I put anything that slightly suggests there could be a problem with the league restarting, I have thousands of replies, and anything that is sort of suggests that maybe the league will carry on, I have thousands of replies the other way, so. We all know, how we feel. But, what the most important line is for me all through this is that, yeah, I'd like to see the game played again. I'm not so sure I want to see them played behind closed doors, but that's life. But the bottom line is it's only when it's safe. And if it's safe, you know, there's no reason why we can't do it, you know, and that's what I need to see before I'd be convinced it's the right time to bring football back, you know. But it has to come back sometime, you know, and you know, as long as it's safe, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a really, you know, it's a really good point. But I think, and not, but makes me sound like I'm gonna disagree with you. I'm not. Obviously, we are following the kind of roadmap that Germany have put up. You know, we are, like you rightly say, we're 4 weeks or whatever behind them, and the Premier League clubs obviously returned to training last week at the training grounds, and there's obviously a lot of protocol they've got to go through. Training in small groups, but there's been a vote this week now that they're going to return to contract training, which is the next phase 2. Just on what you've seen in Germany, Al, with regards to the games being played, and obviously the Premier League is going to come back, whether people like it or don't like it, it's coming back. I think we know that now. What have you learned about watching it as a television, as a television fan, I guess is probably the word, because let's be honest, that's what we're going to be for the next, who knows, 8 months, I should imagine, at least, unless there's a vaccine materialises very quickly. We're probably going to have to consume a lot of Premier League football from our sofas, aren't we? So what would you like to see differently, the Premier League do differently that Germany are doing?
Well, it goes against everything, doesn't it, Baz? You know, when you talk about crowd noise being pumped into stadiums and plastic, you know, people in the stands and all the rest of it, just goes against everything you know and feel about being a football fan. And I think everyone, it doesn't matter who it is, you know, whether it's commentators, you know, production staff, whatever, nobody would want that. You know, everyone would want to see fans in a ground. But you've got to deal with the reality. That's the problem. For me, you know, I read. I was listening to Don Hutchison talking the other day, saying that he thinks the games have been fantastic and, you know, and high intensity and all the rest of it. For me, I think I can't be convinced that a crowdless stadium is the same performance from a player than it is in an empty stadium. You know, I just can't believe that. I can't get that. So I think, you know, the crowd either lift you or take you under, you know, 10% either way, you know, and I think any player, if he was being honest, would say the same thing. You know, if you've got that pressure on of 35, 40,000, 50,000 fans on your back or supporting you, you know, we've all seen it. I've been at Goodison Park when things, you know, I remember there was a game. It wasn't long ago, actually. It was against, I can't remember who it was against now, but the second half started and we've been playing really bad. And I said, what we need here is an incident. You know, we need something to happen to get this crowd going. And there was a tackle, and it was only a tackle. And I think it was possibly Theo Walcott or someone like that. You know, it was when Marco Silva was in charge. And that was the catalyst. That was the spark that the crowd needed. We went on and won that game in the second half. I can't remember who it was against. And I remember thinking to myself, the crowd have done that because that's what was missing. You know, the players needed to react, and they're not human beings if they don't react to crowd. You know, so, you know, and if anyone tells me the Merseyside derby is the same, you know, without fans, well, I can't have that. You know, but the bottom line is, you need to finish the season. For me, you need to finish the season out of integrity. You know, it's not, you know, listen, and I keep saying it when it's safe to do so, but if it was me and my team was 25 points at the top of the league, I know what I'd be calling for, you know, and I'd want to see it finished. I'd go mad if it was us, you know, and you know, a lot of us don't want to hear that, Everton fans, you know, but it's the truth. And you know, the bottom line is, and I think just from the integrity of relegation, we've got to give people, you know, we're seeing in the EFL at the moment that people are going to possibly go down, you know, on points per game on a mathematical solution. And that doesn't feel right to me. You know, I think it's the only thing the EFL can do, by the way. I think that, you know, there's a problem in League 1 and 2 in the fact that they can't afford to pay for testing and the money's not there, and the clubs playing behind closed doors going to cost them rather than give them anything. So, you know, you've got to deal with two things. You've got to deal with what you'd like and what the reality is. And if you can bring those two as close together as you can, I think that's what we've ended up with the Bundesliga, you know. And you know, I'm not a big fan of other football, if you know what I mean. You know, I don't really watch, you know, European games a lot, you know, because it's just not the same for me. You know, I want to watch, you know, English games, you know, and games in this country, you know. But I'm mainly Everton, to be fair. But you know, but it is what it is, and we just have to get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to admit, I've watched probably every game that I've been able to watch at the moment through Mission Football and everything. And I think I know what Don Hutchison's saying. The quality's been quite good. It hasn't been the same, of course. You know, we were in we were in Germany last season at Dortmund with 83,000 there. It was incredible. So watching Dortmund play Bayern Munich in an empty stadium isn't the same. But I think I've seen people say, leave it until it's safe to play again, till we can all go back in the stadium. That ain't going to happen because it could be a year.
No.
Football clubs can't.
It will be.
Exactly. So football clubs can't go, we're having a year off. More than half of them wouldn't survive, Al, would they? And you work in the football industry, you know more than anything. I'm talking Premier League clubs as well, by the way. Spoke to David Maddock yesterday, and he was saying some of the estimates they've been told is the likes of Liverpool and Manchester United are already 100-odd million down for next season. 100-odd million. Everton will be up there with. So,
what supporters do, Baz, right, and you get this all the time, is they see the money coming in, but they don't think about the money going out. You know, and everything's relative. Everything's relative. You know, whilst the Championship clubs and then League One and League Two after them, you know, are running a certain, you know, operation. You know, when you're in the Premier League, you might be getting lots of money in, but you're also paying lots of money out, you know, and it's all relative, you know, when you look at it, you know. So all clubs will be struggling at the moment, no matter who it is. The difference with the Premier League in many cases, you know, it's possibly in ours, you know, with Everton, is that they've got an owner who can take the hit. You know what I mean? That's the thing. You know, League One and League Two clubs don't have. You might get the odd one, but they don't have owners that can take that hit. They're usually local businessmen or, you know, people who are just trying their best, you know, to run the club for the community. So that's a very different argument. Going back to the football, though, the other thing, you know, you're talking about the quality of the game. I actually think games behind closed doors will be better quality because people won't make mistakes. You know, and that's the thing. You know, if you're going down, if you're a football, it's like a training game. You know, you can, and you hear about all these games in training, you know, where, you know, he scored a worldie, you know, and it's a bit different when you've got 40,000 behind you, you know, giving you stick or whatever, or if you're away ground or, you know. So I think actually the quality will probably be better, you know, and that will mean the quality teams will have an advantage in that respect. No one can tell me that going to Crystal Palace away, you know, it's going to be the same without that crowd in that ground, you know, and you'll see those. We saw just before it finished the Watford-Liverpool game, a lot of that was down to the atmosphere in the stadium that night, you know, and that's where I think, you know, we shall lose a little bit, you know what I mean? And, you know, but as I said before, it's, you know, you have to deal with what you've got.
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. I mean, in the Bundesliga, I think there's only been 4 home victories out of all the games so far, which is mad. And a couple of teams who are near the bottom have had big away wins. So it is being a bit of a leveller. I'm something we'll see in the Premier League. I mean, it all looks like the Premier League's going to return the 19th of June. They're saying now that seems to be the date if things progress without obviously a big outbreak of COVID, you know, from the players. I know we've had another couple of positive tests this week. That gives the teams just over 4 weeks away. And I guess the first few games, will be a bit pre-season-ish in terms of where the players are up to fitness-wise, won't it?
Yeah, you know, players can't, no matter what you do at home, you know, we've all seen players who have come, you know, to clubs, you know, and they might be fit, but they're not match fit, you know, and there's a difference between fit and match fit. And, you know, all players, you know, the good thing about it, I guess, is a leveler in the fact that all players will be not match fit. It's not going to be 1 or 2, you know what I mean? It's going to be all of them. So, and it doesn't matter what you do on the bike at home. It doesn't matter what you do. And they'll be doing stuff now. But, you know, but I think because of the season, the amount of season they've had, I think 3 weeks will give them enough to, to get back up to speed. I think it's more about settling into the games more than anything. The longer the games go on, the more you'll see a bit more commitment and a bit more, not commitment in the sense that they won't be committed, but what I mean is there'll be, players will lose their inhibitions a little bit more, because it will be odd going back, because there'll be all kinds of things going around the heads of the players, so. But I think, as I say, the games will get back to normal. The games will become, But I just miss the fans. I mean, I spoke to a leading infectious disease expert this week, who talked about, and he's really good actually. He talked about, from California, and he talked about fans being able to go into a football ground, and I said, well, what's the? And he said, well, don't forget, you've got to have a 6 foot circumference around you. It's not just when you're standing in the supermarket queue, you've got someone 6 foot behind you. At a football ground, it'll have to be at the sides and the front and the back. You know what I mean? So that's a problem straight away. And what he said was, because of people's, you lose your inhibitions in a football match, and so you're not in a supermarket queue. You're not looking at, a referee giving a red card to one of your players. You're not going to shout, you're not going to scream in a supermarket queue, but you will, whether you like it or not. You'll do it in a football ground if there's a game going on. If you score, you won't be able to, you know what I mean? You won't be able to not do it. And what he was telling me, I said, well, what's the danger of that? And he said, well, the infection, the virus at the moment, it comes out in droplets, in very, very fine droplets, from when you talk and whatever. And he said, when you shout, and at this moment in time, what it does, it goes 3 foot in distance, these droplets. So if you're 6 foot away, you're pretty much safe. You've got the 3 foot and then another 3 foot buffer. But when you shout or scream, he said, that can go up to 12 foot. And that's why, there's more of a risk of those droplets become, he called it the aerosol effect. It becomes like an aerosol, like a can of liquid that we spray. And it's, it becomes an aerosol spray, and that's, that's the worry, that's the concerns around football grounds. We only seen this week about the data that come back regarding the Liverpool, what were they called? Athletic Madrid, we saw that. So that is a big risk, and I know I wouldn't want to be putting myself at that risk, to be honest. He even said, this doctor, he said, cricket, on the other hand, you could socially distance in a cricket match. I mean, they do that regularly anyway, don't they, in some of these county cricket matches, So that's a worry, and I don't think until there's a real sense of a vaccine or something, I don't know where it's going to go with football crowds. I really don't.
Probably masks on for when you first go back, maybe, I don't know, but even then, it's everything you're touching. You'd have to have gloves on, and it's just too risky at the minute. And that's why people are kind of saying it's a year. We're looking at a year, and if that's the case, that then leads me to, we do have to have kind of cardboard cutouts almost in the crowd, and crowd noise pumped in, because we've got to get a sense of, as someone who works for Sky, say, their production of a game, they'll want it to look and sound as authentic as it can. It's never going to ever in a million years get near to having a ground full of people. Of course it isn't. But when you're looking down the camera, if you can, I mean, I watched Bayer Leverkusen Borussia Mönchengladbach game on Saturday, and they had the cardboard cutouts. And from a TV perspective, it looked like crowd. So if you had the noise as well, you'd kind of trick yourself that there's people there. Yeah. There isn't. It's not the same.
I don't know what the plans are, to be honest. I genuinely don't know what the plans are, with regards to coming back with the Premier League. I don't know. But what I've seen around the world, you've seen, certain things in South Korea, which, hopefully won't come into our game. But you've seen, I saw the other day was Aarhus, who were getting these video screens, and you can join the game on Zoom. If it's as difficult as it was getting us up to do this interview, we probably won't bother. But but that looked quite fun. I mean, it was weird, but it was an interesting concept. And so you were actually at the ground, if you know what I mean, not physically, but certainly in your presence, and you were watching the game. Whether or not there's the sound on that, I don't know, but I know you're talking about masks, though. I know I've sat next to a few people in the past where I wish I had a mask on, I'll tell you. But no, it's a difficult one, and I guess whatever anyone does, they'll be critical. People will be critical about it because it's not what we want, And I keep getting back to that what we've got to do is get a dose of reality and realise where we are and what we can do, and just get the best. I heard a chairman of a club was talking to me the other day in League Two about this thing that they're going to do, this proposal that they're putting through with the punch per game and all the rest of it. And she said to me, it's as near to normal as you can be, and that's all we can have it because normal's not available. And I thought that's the bottom line. And I look at the Tranmere situation and I feel for them so much, but it's it's about getting as near to normal as possible, and whatever that is, But and people say, oh, he's thinking he just doesn't want to be relegated, or he doesn't want to, he wants to be promoted, or whatever the argument is. Well, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? I know I'd want my chairman to be fighting if there was a chance of promotion or winning the league, or or the other one, going down. But it is what it is. We've got to get to as near as normal as we can.
Just on Everton, obviously Carlo Ancelotti come in. It's hard to kind of comprehend. He's only had 12 games in the Premier League, and we've seen some good stuff already. Is obviously the effects of Duncan Ferguson working with him and Ancelotti, and then obviously we've seen some Everton displays, i.e. Chelsea away, which was shocking, our last performance. But these next 9 games, Al, it'll give him an opportunity, won't it, to really evaluate, looking forward. Obviously, Everton are still only 6 points off a European place if there's European football next season. I say if because we're, where we are at the minute. But so it's still within touching distance. But we've seen this week Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who wasn't expected to play again this season and wouldn't have done because the season should have finished last week, has now got an opportunity of throwing himself into these last few games. And Ancelotti a good option for him to use these 9 games now with planning for next season.
But totally, Baz. And the thing is as well, there will be a lot of players who, I know my I say my other club, the club I was involved in, Blackburn. They've got Bradley Dack, who was, was not going to be playing this season, but now, he's back in the training ground, and same too for Everton. In Everton, there's a number of players. Andre Gomez, will have had more time to feel. But I spoke with Andre the other day, on Sky, and he was sort of saying that, it's given him a chance to really sort of get the fitness going again, and whereas before he would have, Gbamin, probably would have just been thrown into a game, which is what you've got to do, to get back to fitness. So there are, there are opportunities in this, that from a club point of view, from a selfish point of view, that you can use, and the manager will use. I think also he'll probably see, some of the characters, as well, because, times like this, you see real people out and how people react to these things, and he will have seen how they, because they'll have been doing these video conferences all the time. So he'll be seeing how players react to this situation. And, he's a clever enough manager to be able to use that information and look at that situation. And I'm sure he will have learned a lot in this time, but I mean, the 9 games, I'd still love us to get European spot, to be honest. I'm not one of these who say, it won't be good for us and all that. I'd be delighted to be in the Europa League next year, and I think it's still possible. I think one of the interesting facts about coming back playing these last 9 games is that, it'll be interesting to see how teams react, especially if they play them in neutral grounds. It'll be very interesting to see because you don't know, as a manager, you won't know how your team will react to playing like that. You'll have no idea. And I think this was a worry for some of the clubs down the bottom end, because, all of a sudden, your team's having to deal with something else, and it's not what was on the table before. You know what I mean? Before you had these 9 games, you knew that when there were crowds in, your team would react a certain way. You don't know how it will react. So there might be teams sort of 3 or 4 or 5 places up from the relegation zone, who may have a terrible run, and all of a sudden find themselves, in the bottom three. You know what I mean? And that's some of the fears around the whole situation, I think, and that's what the discussions have been going on, about those sorts of issues. But it's down to the managers and the players to get it right, and some will get it right, some won't. And I hope that, Ancelotti and Everton would probably, get it right and see it as an opportunity to make up those games.
Definitely, and obviously if we're going to be playing in empty stadiums next season, it gives you this introduction to it now so that you're ready to go for next season. I mean, just quickly, Al, how much you think it will be, obviously, is transfer plans will be affected though, because obviously it doesn't seem, I know there's a lot of reports going around of ridiculous amounts of money from every club. I don't see many clubs spending big money at all. I think this is the one year that everything will probably be loans and a lot of transfer fees, halved even. But how much do you think this will affect Ancelotti's transfer plans, the way the economic world is at the minute?
Well, I think clearly, because I've spoken to people and clearly there was work going on, and a lot of the lack of movement in January was down to the fact that they were getting the ducks in a row for the summer, for me. And I think, undoubtedly the transfer market will be affected, not just because it already is affected on a time scale, but it will be affected cost-wise. There's no two ways about it. People will have to look at what they can spend. They'll have to think, because we've not really seen the financial impact yet of this. This will come July, August, September. That's when you'll see the financial impact starting to come, especially if there's no income. And I know people say, it's a very small percentage of Premier League clubs' income. It is, but it's a very important percentage as well. They need that income, but because don't forget, if that income isn't there, you have to take that from the pot, from the central pot, to run the club, sort of thing. So getting back to the transfer window, I mean, I don't think, first of all, it certainly won't open until this season's completed one way or another. So whether the season is completed by playing the games, as it looks like it will be, whether it's, completed, under with a curtailment or whatever way it gets finished, there's no way you're going to see a transfer window open, until that's done, because that just wouldn't be right from an integrity point of view. I mean, maybe they might have a situation where, but you see, what you've got a problem with is the contract situation, because if players are out of contract and there's a system where they can go and join someone, legally they can go, unless they sign an extension or whatever, no one can force them to sign anything after their contract. That's the law of the land, but so I can't see that creating a situation where players might think, I've been offered a job, somewhere else, or a club somewhere else, and going. I just don't see that, So you're looking probably the transfer window not open until mid-August to maybe September, and then obviously, depending on when next season starts, everything will be reduced in time, because you can't waiting until December to start the league, So yeah, there's a lot to work out yet, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be really a strange period of time, really, and not one we've seen. And it'd be interesting to see what everyone does, not just Everton, but hopefully some of those ducks in a row we can come up with clever ways to get round it, whether it be a loan with a guarantee of buying next summer for a certain amount of money or whatever. Hopefully his plans won't be affected too much. Just finally, Al, are you confident that we've got the right man at the helm now? Because it's, I don't think we could have got anyone more qualified, could we, when we brought Ancelotti in?
No, I said it on the day when he joined, Baz, and I'm still of the same impression, is that it's not about whether Ancelotti is right for us, it's about whether we can be right for him, and that's the challenge for Everton is, he's a winner. We know he's a winner. We're not, we in the last, it was 25 years, wasn't it, this week or whatever it was. So we got to get to his standard, not the other way around. He's not got to, of course he's got to understand the club, and I think he already does that, to be honest. But but we've got to show him that our ambition is big enough and great enough and feasible enough, to match his ambition, and I think we will. I think we've got an owner who wants that. I think Farhad Moshiri loves the challenge, and he wants that buzz, of being successful, and I think obviously Bill Kenwright did as well, but there were limitations there, but Farhad Moshiri has got the facility to be able to take that and to take that to the next level. And I think, I get a good sense from the club at the moment. I feel that the group is good together. There's a professionalism there, which makes you feel like there's a chance, but I do think he needs to sort his squad out, because clearly he hasn't had the chance to do that, and when he does, it'll be very interesting to see the quality of player that he brings in. Very interesting. But A, what he would like, and B, what we can get him. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting going forward. Exciting times as well. Once it all settles down. Alan, listen, thanks for taking the time out. I know you're incredibly busy and you're here, there and everywhere making phone calls and doing old-fashioned journalism, as you've said. But it's been great to chat with you today. So thanks so much for taking the time out.
No problem, Baz. I do everything old-fashioned, mate, not just journalism.
It's the best
way. Thanks very much. Great. I love watching the Toffee TV, so I look forward to it.
Cheers, Al. Thanks so much, mate. Big thanks there to Alan Myers for joining us from, he's taking a break from his job as Sky News editor there to have a chat with us. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and if you want more videos, join us on Patreon. See you later.